won't. Yeah, I agree with that. Same is true with Barry. Yeah, because you sold the forest. You want to play a little of this softly, instrumentally, and then they'll stop us, or?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy to welcome you all into our chapel this evening. It is one of our favorite nights of the year, the service of confirmation. You are in for such a treat. But before we get into what is going to come next, we're going to begin our service. I hope you grabbed a prayer packet on the way in. We have a little bit of a special service this evening, so you have a booklet. You can also follow along on the screens behind us. And we're going to begin with a quote from Pirkei Avot, Al Shlosha Devarim, upon three things the world stands, on Torah, on prayer, and on loving kindness. If you are familiar, please sing along. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim. Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omed, Al HaTorah ve'al Ha'avoda ve'al Gemilut Chasadim, Al HaTorah ve'al Ha'avoda ve'al Gemilut Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam Omed. Last time, everyone. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Ha'olam
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let's get this sound. There we go. Shabbat Shalom to all of you again. Shabbat Shalom to all of you who are zooming in for Shabbat and also for our confirmation and graduation service. It means a lot for us that all of you are here for so many different reasons. We have three wonderful young people becoming B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow throughout the day. And to begin services this evening, we call on their parents, Michael and Emily Schoenbraun, David and Debbie Schlossman, Jordan Katz, and Aphrodite Zimmerman to kindle the Sabbath lights.
As we light these Shabbat candles, we link ourselves with the generations of our people who have kindled these holy flames. Time passes quickly, and we take this moment to pause and express our gratitude.
We stand here as a family, with humility and with love for this occasion, for one another, and for being a part of this sacred community. As we participate in this age-old ritual, we embrace this moment as we move forward in the cycle of our lives.
Yesterday we held our children in our arms, and tomorrow they will be called to the Torah as B'nai Mitzvah. These Shabbat candles remind us not only of the joy of this occasion, but they help us to see the light within one another and the strengths that each of us possesses. Grateful for all the precious gifts in our lives, we kindle the Shabbat lives.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu ad le'ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. As we continue with our service, we want to give you a little bit of an understanding of what's going to happen this evening. Throughout the service, typically we have readings, we have prayers that we say together. This evening, the Torah and the teachings are going to come from our confirmation class. So we will have opportunities to share together in prayer, and then they are going to be leading us in a service that is guided by the hard work that they have done all year, the deep thinking and seeking that they have done together as a class and individually, and you are in for such a treat. So you can help them a lot with their momentum of the service by chanting along with them and with us, and I'm really pleased to share their beautiful wisdom with you this evening. But before we hear from our confirmands, we are going to continue welcoming in Shabbat, turning to page 3 in your prayer packets, or as we said on the screens behind us, with Lecha Dodi. Tiferet velitila lecha dodi.
ברכה מראש מקדם, משוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה כי תעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נקרא לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה
בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה,
גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We turn now to our call to prayer, the Baruch Hu, and invite you to please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated.
Can I go? I first began going to Hebrew school in second grade and went every year until my bar mitzvah, which was January 2020. After my bar mitzvah, I was happy to have a little break, but didn't realize how big of a break it was going to be due to COVID. I truly began to miss the connection I had made from being active at Temple. When my mom mentioned last spring about ways to get involved, I was very excited to return. When I first started confirmation class, my Jewish identity was not as strong as it is today. Since becoming a Madrahim and joining confirmation class, I have become so much closer to the TBJ community. I have really enjoyed both programs. I have loved learning about my Jewish identity and Jewish history. This class has expanded my horizons and social actions, causes, and given me confidence to share my opinions. I appreciate that I have had a safe place to discuss things that I had not felt comfortable discussing before. Since becoming more involved at TBJ, I volunteered at various Tikkun Olam programs and had the opportunity to go on the Washington, D.C. trip to the Religious Action Center, where I got to meet other Jewish teens from around the country. When I met these people, I instantly connected with them and had lots of things in common. I found there is a certain type of connection that all Jews share. My parents often said that there's often a bond you instantly feel when you meet certain people, and I've been blessed this year to have experienced that for myself.
When I was younger, I was never connected or really wanted to be at Temple or part of the Jewish community at all. It was always something I was forced to do, and it felt like a chore, whether it was going to Hebrew school, services, or doing something else. I was never excited to be there, although some of these things still aren't my favorite or my first choice. My mindset has drastically shifted. It first started several years ago with family and friends, but over time, I've grown an appreciation of my Jewish community. It has become a place where I can perform acts of good in my community and make new friends along the way. I've been able to volunteer at religious school and different programs while having fun at the same time. It has given me the chance to help others when in the past I would have never thought to. My Jewish community and temple have both been places where I feel better about myself and what I'm doing. My Jewish community has given me a safe space to do acts of good for my community and encouraged me to do more. Since getting that small push and encouragement, I have felt closer to my Jewish community. Instead of feeling forced to participate, I genuinely want to take part in it. It has also introduced me to new people from all over and a variety of ages who have become some of my closest friends.
My relationship with God has always been important to me. I believe that God is omnipotent. I think that God is present, influential, and positive. I also believe that God does not control us, but is the teacher of human morals and the model for how our interactions and engagement with the world should be. It is important to note that Judaism encourages authentic relationships, that we all stay true to who we are at the core. This is where spirituality intersects with friendship. Growing up in the TBJ community has taught me to show your care for people. For example, for my mitzvah project, it felt fulfilling to make a difference at the Daughters of Israel nursing home by serving snacks. As Martin Buber would describe it, the relationship was characterized as I-it. It was a job that I did that was necessary for them, and if they were not there, I would not be able to do my job. On the other hand, Buber would also suggest that this relationship exemplified I-thou, an emotional connection. The distinctions can coexist. This Jewish philosophy clearly intertwines with Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel's principle of radical amazement, which outlines the holiness of our relationships. This concept is depicted by learning inwards and acting outwards. I know that we live in a world full of expectations and personal goals, but the ultimate fulfillment in life comes from, quote, our honest response to the grandeur and mystery of reality of our confrontation with that which transcends us is given. The meaning of life is found through embracing our relationships. It is those who look out for others that have others looking out for them.
With our confirmands' beautiful words about community and oneness on our minds, we invite you to rise as we sing the words of the Shema together.
Asher Hotzei Tiechem
Before starting confirmation class, I didn't think very much about my relationship with God. In fact, if you had asked me, I would have said I didn't have one. Throughout this year, however, in studying different ideas about what God could be, I have a new understanding of how God fits into my life. The Jewish thinker Martin Buber thought that there are two kinds of relationships, I-it, which are transactional relationships where both people are trying to get something, and I-thou, where sole purpose is to enrich those in the relationship. While both are valuable in their own ways, the I-thou relationship, according to Buber, is how we relate to God. In another class session, we took Buber's ideas further and created a chart about where we find God within the relationships we have with others. We wondered if God was found in the connections between us, or even in the empty spaces between those connections. What I took from that discussion was that because we are taught in our tradition that human beings are created in God's image, and because we make our relationships, that it is through these important connections with others that we can find God in our lives. What does this mean for me as I move into the next phase of my life? It means that I need to work on meaningful I-thou relationships. It means when I sit and talk to one or two kindergartners on a Sunday morning as they arrive at religious school, I'm developing a relationship with them, and therefore experiencing God in my life. When I spend time with my brother and we're just having fun or being silly together, I'm experiencing God. The unconditional love I receive from my family and the love I give them in return is where I can find God. These months of confirmation classes have taught me how important my closest relationships are. As I continue to grow up and find out my place in the world, I am grounded in the idea that Judaism places value on how we interact and treat each other. I hope that I take that with me in everything I do.
Shabbat Shalom. When I first began writing this speech, I went to my mother for advice, as I do for many things, and she told me this story. At the time, I was maybe around the age of 4 or 5 and had recently started religious school. My sister, who's 2 years younger, also went to the same school, but wasn't quite at the level of Jewish learning that I had reached. One day, at the breakfast table, I was discussing what I'd learned in class the previous day. I spoke of how God was the creator of everything, the sun, the moon, the animals, but my sister avidly disagreed with me. She said God was a feeling, a thought, an emotion. To 5-year-old Noah, this was a disgrace. My mother described my reaction as one of a rabbi preaching to his congregants. I was furious. Of course, now I can see the comedy. Yet in the decade or so since, I haven't really affirmed my stance on or my relationship with God. But now, after going through this confirmation process, learning about the many great religious leaders and ideals that Judaism has to offer, I find myself agreeing with my sister. I believe God to be the glue between our relationships, the empowerment that makes us get out of bed in the morning, love. And this confirmation experience has made me see and feel those feelings, those moments, in a new light, and I feel that I've come out a better man because of it. God is not a destination to me. God is a doorway. Thank you.
Continuing with our service, we're going to sing now together these words of Micha Mocha, who is like you, O God? And I see a lot of people in this room who know this melody. So let's raise our voices together.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha
When I was in kindergarten, I took a pair of scissors and cut my hair. It was not a lot and it was quite hidden, but my dad found the hair in the trash and ultimately figured it out. When walking back from school that day, my mom asked me if I cut my hair. When I admitted to doing so, she responded with why. I argued by saying if God was this powerful being that could do anything, then he probably convinced my brain to tell my body to pick up the scissors and cut my hair. Looking back at that conversation with my mom made me think about how my Jewish identity and views of God have changed since. I now believe that God grants us all free will, but at the time I had no idea. Over the years, I've been going to Jewish sleepaway camp, participating in nifty events and programs at the temple. These Jewish communities, each of which have taught me different things, have filled this place in my heart. To me, God is like a parent. God spoils me when I was young by giving me life, happiness, a home, a family, a Jewish community, and good health. As I've grown older, I've had the opportunity to earn these gifts. I might have taken for granted when I was younger. For example, exercising to get healthy, sharing kindness and love with my family, having an active role in my Jewish communities, and working hard in all I do and always expressing gratitude. Free will is a big part of growing up. The consequences of free will, however, is the creation of the spectrum of good and evil. As I've gotten older and grown into my Jewish identity, I have realized that God can't fix every bad thing in the world, every evil thought or tiny mistake, or else we would not grow as people. To me, God's separation from humanity is the only way we can learn to use our free will for the greater good. If God eliminated every evil deed in the world without our choice, is that really a choice at all? I'm happy God does not interfere when I make mistakes. I'm happy to know that mistakes mean that I'm learning and growing, and that I have the opportunity with the support of my communities behind me.
Since our very first confirmation class, Cantor Lucy and Rabbi Matt have challenged us with a question of God's role in our lives. Is God's power limited or omnipotent? What does God control? I didn't know, and frankly, I still don't know. But after a lot of thought, I realized I think of God like a coach. For any of you athletes or parents of athletes, you'll know coaches are supportive and always looking after their players. And you'll know that there are many different types of coaches. Some who micromanage at practice and yell from the sidelines during games about positioning or when to pass the ball. And this is an example of the omnipotent God, where God's powers are so strong that God had me drink water a few minutes ago or told me to put my left shoe on before my right shoe. And some people believe in this philosophy. Some people believe they are being instructed by the source, from the coach, or from God directly. Then there are other coaches who are silent during the games, letting us, the players, or humans, feel out the game and adjust ourselves accordingly. This doesn't mean that this silent coach has nothing to do with the game. They pick who is playing, in what positions, and when a substitute might be needed. This represents the idea of a limited God. Although God may not have an immediate or direct effect on my life that I can tangibly feel, maybe God is built into the relationships I build, or how I get along with other people, or when certain people come into my life. I feel that God has played a more limited role in my personal game of life. However, just like how a team can get a new coach, the idea of God and God's powers are ever changing. There will always be times when the more reserved coach tells me something mid-game, or times when the louder coach looks off to the side in silence. God's role and influence are ever changing, and there are going to be moments when I have a more direct relationship with God, and other times when I play under a new coach, and God guides me on my journey instead of playing my life for me.
Turning to page 16 in your prayer packets, we're going to invite the congregation to rise for the blessings of the Amidah.
Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Hasdei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atara Lehoshia, Mechakel Hayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Ramim, Somech Nofli Verofei Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayeh Menunato, Lishenei Afa, Mihamocha Baal Gevurot, Umidom Elah, Melech Meniv Tumechayeh, Umasmiya Yeshua, V'ne'eman eta lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol.
Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukadoshim b'chol yom yehallelujah selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated.
Okay. It's a little hard to believe in a God seeing all the bad things in the world, but it's hard not to believe in a God because that's what I've been grown up learning. I hear the clockmaker explanation a lot. God made the world. It's not his job to run it. I get that from my dad. But it's hard to believe in an absent clockmaker who doesn't intervene in a world where all of our texts depict the opposite. Why can biblical God cause floods and level immoral cities while modern God can't even stop a house from burning down? Why could God free the Jewish people during enslavement, not 50 years after being enslaved, but chattel slavery has existed for centuries? And in other places, the Torah is supposed to be a metaphor, but it's not literal. But then, we're supposed to believe God is. Everything else isn't real, but that part is. And I suppose there's another interpretation that God is everywhere, everything, the puppet master controlling the entire planet. But then how can you have a good, benevolent God who controls everyone and all the evil in the world? I mean, people say everything happens for a reason, but with all the war and tragedy in the world, I can't believe in a God that can control everything and still believe in the good God of our prayers. People say there has to be evil so there can be good, but I don't understand, why there has to be good. Why do we have to suffer to understand goodness when we could just not suffer? So then, I guess, how do I define my relationship with God when I think every relationship is flawed? I don't believe I can. I think that's what that means to be religious, though, isn't it? To consider your relationship with God, to think about it. And you don't need an answer, you just need to be aware.
If you know me, you also probably know that I very much enjoy the idea of questioning everything, which I learned is inherently a very Jewish trait. A simple "because I said so" will never suffice my never-ending curiosity. I've always wanted the answers to the whys and the hows of the world. Now, my teachers never seem to like that very much, but that's never stopped me. I was never satisfied with the answers I was being given, but I was never truly clear on where that curiosity came from. That was until I took this confirmation class and learned about what it means to be Jewish. I found out how inclusive Judaism is. Something I love about it is the fact that it is always up to interpretation, and there's no such thing as a bad Jew. I found the spectrum of Judaism very interesting and liked how Jews always seem to be questioning the world and reevaluating their beliefs. This specifically showed up in my love for current events, which we talked a lot about in class. I particularly like when we would discuss how certain Jewish thinkers would respond to the world today. I always enjoy talking about politics and following what is happening around the world. When we talked in class, there were never any bad perspectives, just different ideas. Questioning what the person next to me was thinking was always welcomed and valued. I'm grateful to be a part of a community that encourages me to keep questioning, learning, and growing.
We'll take a moment to pause for our prayers for healing, healing of the body or healing of the spirit. If there's anybody you are holding on to in your hearts, I invite you to think of them in this moment. This evening, this Shabbat, we say our prayer for healing for Cindy Baker, Emil Batat, Emily Berkowitz, Ada Barbara Corvelli, Alfred Marcus, Melissa Miller, Wayne Pole, Gerard Roos, and Audra Gail Weiss. And if you have names you'd like to add this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name, and if you feel so inclined, your relationship with them. Prayers for healing. Right. Alex. Julie. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals the sick.
Most of us have heard the saying, where you have two Jews, you have three opinions. We are notorious for our arguing and for having strong opinions. Though this could be rooted in stereotypes, the Jewish tradition of argument and disagreement has dated back to the days of the Torah. Still, in the present day, growing up Jewish means that we are taught to question everything. From Hebrew school to our bar and bat mitzvahs and now to confirmation, everything we learn prompts us to question both what we are taught and the way we live our lives. Throughout confirmation, we have been welcomed to explore our own identities and to figure out what we believe. Both Rabbi Matt and Cantor Lucy have been encouraging us to ask questions and to think for ourselves. Asking questions mean you consciously want to learn and truly understand and become more engaged. It motivates you to not follow everything you are taught blindly and encourages you to think both critically and creatively. When we ask questions, we become more aware of the way we perceive the world around us, and we can acknowledge our biases and assumptions while gaining a deeper understanding of ourselves. This awareness not only helps us to recognize our strengths and weaknesses, but also helps us to grow as individuals. This curiosity then leads to exploration and allows us to explore new paths and to become more knowledgeable about the world around us. When I allow myself to ask the question why, I am able to dig deeper and figure out who I am and what I believe. Being able to disagree with others enables me to formulate my own opinions and my own views while being able to learn from the perspective of others. During confirmation, we were introduced to many Jewish thinkers, and the variety of perspectives opened us to new ideas and allowed us to learn from each and every one of them. As a result, I have learned to listen actively and respectfully to others, which, in my opinion, is essential for building strong and healthy relationships. Therefore, I urge everyone not to shy away from challenging conversations, but rather to approach them with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to learn and grow. By doing so, I believe we can create a more informed, engaged, and empathetic society.
I have always been aware of my Judaism. It's my family's religion and the way I was raised. I went to Hebrew school and I had my bat mitzvah. I attended Jewish summer camp and I celebrated holidays with relatives. But I never put too much thought into what I was doing. I never stopped to look around and think about my religion. Why was I Jewish? What made me Jewish? Why did it even matter? I still do not have all the answers, but I think I grew and learned greatly throughout this year. I am Jewish, yes, because I was born into it, but being involved in making a commitment through my own choices is what defines my religion to me. Making the choices to go to temple on my own, participating in community service, actively working to make the world a better place, these are the traits that make me Jewish. And the fact that I choose what I am doing is the most important part. I love the openness of Judaism. I love that I make these choices and no one else makes them for me. I believe in God, but if I didn't, I could still be Jewish. I can disagree with the Torah or interpret it in a completely different way than someone else would. The openness of it all is what makes it fluid and dynamic. As a teenage girl, I can appreciate this at my current stage in life, and I think I have a stronger relationship to Judaism now than I had before. I look forward to seeing how I grow with Judaism throughout my life to come.
We take a moment to pray for that blessing that we need most, one for the healing of our world. We pray for an abundance of peace here in our community and one day around the world. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam.
inspired by the words of our confirmands who are sharing their own perspectives with us, what it means to believe in God, to experience the power of our Jewish community. I'll invite you to turn inward, maybe think about your own perspective on these topics, on these big topics of our world, the few moments of silent prayer.
Much wisdom have I learned from my teachers. More have I learned from my friends, from my students, have I learned the most of all. Harbe למדתי מרבותיי ומחבריי יותר מרבותיי ומתלמידיי יותר מכולם, יותר מכולם. Turn it and turn it and turn it, turn it and turn it around. Everything is in it, everything is in it. Turn it and turn it around. Turn it and turn it and turn it. Turn it and turn it around. Everything is in it, everything is in it. Turn it and turn it and turn it
Turn it.
Turn it and turn it and turn it. Turn it and turn it around. Everything is in it, everything is in it. Turn it and turn it around. Turn it and turn it and turn it. Turn it and turn it around. Everything is in it, everything is in it. Turn it and turn it and turn it around.
turn it and turn it around, for everything is in it. This quote is from Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors. And it's one that I pray holds so true for you, our dear confirmands. The it they are referring to in this text is the Torah itself, the Torah that the Israelites received at Mount Sinai, and the Torah that has evolved into the Judaism we know today. In a few days, we will celebrate the holiday of Shavuot, the receiving of that Torah. Just like the Israelites learning to find their way in a new world, you stand here today, not yet fully formed, but hungry for knowledge, opportunity, and change. You are seekers, grappling with big ideas and what you believe. You are change makers, committed to building new structures that make more sense to you than the ones you've inherited. You are people of abundant curiosity, empathy, and humor. You think deeply, but you do not take yourselves too seriously. There was a lot of laughter in the Hoffman Library this year. You have spent this year immersed in deep thought and profound questioning. And this class is deeply connected to one another, to Judaism, to TBJ, and most of all, to your Jewish identities. I pray that the bonds you have formed this year will last a lifetime and continue to sustain you as you continue to grow into the incredible people you are becoming right before our very eyes. Finally, as you just heard me sing, another quote from Pirkei Avot, "Much wisdom have I learned from my teachers, more have I learned from my friends, but from my students have I learned the most of all." As your teachers this year, Rabbi Matt and I have heard you explore, wrestle, and grow with such wisdom and such grace. You have been our teachers as much as our students, and we have learned so much from your openness. That is the Torah that lives inside you, and I pray that you will continue to turn it and turn it and turn it again, for everything is in it, and everything is in you. Mazel tov to the confirmation class of 5783.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You guys, meaning you confirmands, you've been hearing all of us, but particularly I have loved telling you stories since you've been really, really little. And some of you now that I think of your age were not even here when I got here. So I could say your whole lives for many of you. This story is specifically for confirmation. This is a story that goes way back when that says that when the Israelites get to Mount Sinai and they were about to receive the Torah, God says, before you get it, you need to give me some kind of guarantee. I need guarantors that you're going to take care of this Torah, you're going to perpetuate it, its ethics and values are always going to be guarded. So Moses comes back down from the mountain and he gets together with 600,000 Jews. You can imagine, folks, 600,000 Jews trying to make one decision. It doesn't always go so easily. So they start to argue back and forth and back, and one says, I know what to do. Let's offer up the elders. They're so wise. They're the ones who could be our guarantors. Moses goes back up to God, and God says, I love the elders, but I'm far wiser than they are. That's not going to work. Moses goes back down the mountain again. They argue once again, and someone says, let's offer up the prophets. They'll be the guarantee. Moses goes back up the mountain, and God says, so what do you have for me? Moses says, the prophets will be the guarantors. They could see far into the future. And God says, I love the prophets, but I could see way further into the future than they can. Moses, you have one more shot. Moses goes back down the mountain, and this time people are arguing at a feverish pace. No one wants to listen to each other, back and forth and back. And there are two kids, about 5 years old, a boy and a girl, waving their hands from the back saying, choose us, we have the answer. And all the adults said, oh, come on, what do kids know? And Moses says to the adults, so far, what do you know? Let's listen to the kids. So almost like the way you've spoken up in class this year, although of course you're a few years older, with complete confidence, comfortable in their own skin, they walk up the aisle, through the desert, up to Moses, and they simply say, with, again, complete confidence and surety, it's us. We're going to be the guarantee. We'll be the guarantors that we promise will always take care of our tradition, always guard our ethics, always, of course, propel our values, and make sure this tradition is here for all time. And Moses goes back up the mountain without missing a beat, just as confident as those kids were. God says, "Nu, Moshe, what do you have for me?" And without missing a beat, Moses says, the children will be our guarantors. And also without missing a beat, God says, now that's a guarantee that I can accept. And it goes that since then, since Sinai, we've always promised from the moment a child is born in our tradition that we pray that they will be our guarantors of this tradition, of our ethics, of our values, of our faith. Well, I say to all of you, thank you. Thank you for fulfilling that promise. Thank you for deciding you were going to be different than a lot of your friends, given all the activities you have, all the sports and all the acting and all the arts and all the friendships, to show up without miss on Sunday mornings to study about our faith, about our tradition, about our God. I promised you, as Cantor Fishbein did when you entered the room, that our job was not convincing you to be a better Jew, to believe in God. We don't get notches in our belts every time we get a new believer. It's not the way it works. All we wanted was for you to be able to decide why it is that you did or why it is that you didn't. And I promised you, and Cantor Fishbein promised you, that in between that, the tension between belief and disbelief, between wonder and understanding, would come depth, would come you becoming more evolved, more growth-filled, and deeper human beings. And I promise you, all of you have done that. You did it even more than your bat mitzvah. When you're 13 years old, your mind is just sort of getting your arms around this stuff. But at 16 years old, you really got it. So thank you. Thank you for being our guarantors. I want to stop and also, I know your parents are scattered throughout this chapel, but thank you to you parents who decided to say, I'm going to double down what I think is most important when it comes to my kids. That, of course, being here week in and week out is wonderful. We all do it. But to get them here, given everything else you have to do, means everything to us. You really are our true partners when it comes to understanding what it means to instill a Jewish education within your children. So parents, I'm spotting some of you, but to all of you, thank you for being guarantors. For those of you who are grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins or somehow here as caregivers, thank you. Thank you for being guarantors, for teaching your children to teach their children. Because that's what all we are, is we are chains in a link of tradition that says that somehow if we pass this down, wisdom and ethics and values will always expand wide and deep. And your children indeed are wide and deep. Thank you to our educators, to Abra, to Carly, to Sarah. Sarah, of course, Mazel Tov. You are one of those parents, I know. But you know what? Tears, when it comes to good times, count the most. So keep on crying. But thank you. We came out of, Abra, when you came back to us after being away for a little while. By the way, Abra was a confirmand about 10 years ago herself, 12 years ago. We'll go with 13, okay. When she came back, you know, for all this excitement and put together this extraordinary team, a little pandemic came along our way and sort of disrupted a lot of our plans. Well, throughout all those complicated times, they've only been growing this program. We were at 4 or 5 confirmands at the beginning of the pandemic. We have grown to better numbers and bigger numbers, but more importantly, deeper learning. Our Madrichim program this year is at 64 children who come Mondays and Tuesdays and Sundays. They do get paid a little money, but I don't think that's really what it's about. Their hearts and souls get paid. But thank you to our stellar educators for growing this program and never losing your commitment to everything that's right. And of course, thank you to our lay leadership who understands the value of education and continues to invest in it. Thank you to our clergy who are always here in ways that you see and ways that you don't, especially to Cantor Fishbein. Generally, I'd like to take credit. I could take maybe 15 to 20% this year, given that I was on sabbatical for part of it. So she really handled the lion's share. She's an extraordinary teacher. You get to hear her voice. You don't get to see how incredibly talented she is in the classroom. So to our confirmands, all I could say is that it is such a privilege to watch you growing up. And we can't wait to see, because we think the best is yet to come. And we've told you this since you were kids. Our feeling is this, that you go off in sorry parents, just 2 short years. It does go really fast. These kids go off to start flying with those wings that you've helped put on them. You go home and give your parents a hug and kiss first, but you know where we expect you to be as soon as you give them a hug. Is back here to report in and tell us what's going on. So you have a couple of years left. We're going to bid farewell to those who are a couple of years older than you. And for 1, 2, and 3 of you who are becoming B'nai Mitzvah, this is where we expect to see you in 2 years, because you could see from what they had to say, no pressure, no guilt, but it is one heck of a program. So Mazel Tov to all of you. We're going to say a few words to you privately in a moment. Cantor Fishbein will explain how that's going to go, but we'll see you in a couple of moments.
I'm going to invite our confirmands to make their way to the bima, and also I'm going to call Abra up to join us to help us, and to my clergy colleagues to meet me at the Ark. And I'll invite the congregation to please rise. Blessed each of you individually, it's now our privilege as your teachers and as your clergy to bless you as a confirmation class.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and watch over you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's light shine upon you, granting each of you the gift of compassion.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha Shalom.
May God in God's infinite wisdom grant each and every one of you the most precious gift of all, and that is indeed the gift of shalom, of wholeness, of balance, dear God of peace, of your minds, of your bodies, and of your dear and sweet, sweet spirits, as together on this incredibly important moment in the 175 years of our history, we say together as one family community, Amen.
Amen.
Mazel tov, guys.
Mazel tov. Please be seated. Rabbi Gewirtz mentioned what happens after confirmation, and for a few very important young people in this room, that is the opportunity to wish you well as you graduate not only from high school, but also from our programming. The word graduation comes from the Latin word gradus, which refers to the level that one reaches or the grades earned by the graduates. For our 12th graders, indeed, your impending graduations from high school are based on all the work you have done throughout the past few years. But unlike the cap and gown you will wear or the diploma that will bear your names, tonight we honor you, not for your academic achievements or accomplishments. Rather, we honor you using the Hebrew word for graduation, which is siyum, which means completion. This word is used when a student completes a tractate of the Talmud or a section of learning. In times of old and times today, to celebrate achievements, a community or school would hold a siyum to publicly have the students complete their learning and for the members of the community to celebrate their work. The very notion of a siyum tells us about the Jewish value of learning. Unlike graduation, which is usually followed by a period of no formal learning, like the summer or beginning of work, a siyum is followed by the continuation of learning. The day after a siyum, students shelve the book they have finished, open a new book, and begin again. When it comes to being Jewish, the learning never ends. We merely take time to celebrate, then return to our lifelong mission of Torah, Avodah, and Gimilut Chasadim, study, prayer, and acts of loving kindness. I know not all of our graduates are here, but many of them are, so I would like to ask you to please rise where you are. Don't be shy, graduates. There's a few of you here. I think I got one more, maybe? All right. We know that there are many who could not join us tonight, but for the ones who are here, you have been an incredible presence in our community. Many of you are here every single Sunday morning. You share with us the parts of your life, the highs, the challenges, and everything that's in between. And you are role models to so many of our young people. It is our prayer for you this evening that this graduation is a siyum for the learning that has taken place at TBJ over these years, that it continues in the myriad of ways that each of you have spent time within these walls. It might be the courses that you take in college. It might be your participation in Jewish organizations. It might be the ways you engage with the most challenging issues of our day. And as Rabbi Matt said, it's so true. It is what you will share with us when you, we really hope, come back to visit us fall break, Thanksgiving, winter break, whatever. We'll take whenever you can come. It's bittersweet to watch our graduates leave, knowing that we won't see you as often as we did before. But we hold both as we bless you on this next chapter of the journey. You know that our office doors, our hearts, our inboxes, our texts, they're always open to each of you. And of course, to your parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends, all of you who are here, we thank you especially for your partnership and commitment to helping your child grow and flourish, for driving them here hundreds and hundreds of times, and also letting themselves drive themselves here when they were ready. We are so grateful for the beautiful gifts of those who are standing, those who have contributed so much to our community. We have seen them grow from children to B'nai Mitzvah and now graduates. With all of you, we celebrate the Siyum. We pray that we will be privileged to celebrate so many simchas with you and your families in the years to come. May you go from strength to strength to strength, as together we say, Amen. I'm going to invite you to remain standing and to invite our whole congregation. We'll stand you up one more time, page 26. Our service will continue with the words of Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kem yishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
At this point in our service, we come to words of Kaddish. These words honor the lives of those in our families and our communities who we have lost. If you hear the name of someone you are remembering and you're so inclined, we invite you to rise in honor of their memory. In this first week of Shiva, we remember Harvey D. Silver, MD, husband of Maureen, father of Judy and the late Ian, grandfather of Ryan and Eric. And in the period of Shloshim, the 30 days of mourning, we remember Judith S. Bloomfield, Loretta Zahnstetcher, Beverly Cook Rubin, Doris Walter, Goldie Morchower, Beverly Claire Schwartz, and Muriel M. Stone. And on their anniversary of passing, the Shabbat their yahrzeit, we remember Etta Barnett, David Baum, Abraham Berman, Wilbur Bobker, Etta Bucksbaum, Frida Insel Cohen, Carrie Jadel Cohen, William R. Cohen, Lester D. Cohn, Mildred Fivis, Gertrude Glasser, Benjamin Glickstein, Joseph Getz, Rose S. Goldsmith, Gertrude Goldstein, Ethel A. Goldstein, Laura Gould Goodman, Dr. Theodore Grotsky, Jane Meyer Grata, Jacob M. Harris, Sonia Sophie Harvey, Max Heller, Charles George Howard, Alma Rothwine Jacobs, Dr. A. Milton Jacobs, Joan Lazarus Culkin, Daniel George Kaysen, Eve M. Catcher, William Kramer, Mark Philip Levy, Etta Fried Lindemann, Brunette Kahn Mallon, Jervis Lincoln Miller, Julius Miller, Pauline Novin, Siegfried Prager, Sadie H. Press, Julius Rebenfeld, Susan Reese, Harry Rich, Richard Rothenberg, Kenneth I. Schoenwalter, Abraham Schack, Max J. Shapiro, Joseph Siegler, Max Steinhardt, Betty Straver, Phyllis Fisher Turkis, Dorothy Umansky, Rachel Weiss, Abraham Weiss, and Stephen Allen Zinn, MD. This week, we remember the following members of our world and country community whose lives were taken by gun violence. Andy Black Thunder of Arizona, Artemis Boyd II of Indiana, Keith Coates of Georgia, Yabez Davis of Chicago, Jermaine Farrell of Georgia, Danny Garcia, Arizona, Jarrell Harmon, Chicago, Melody Ivy, New Mexico, DeMonte Marshall, Kentucky, Officer Ariana Preston of Chicago, Nazim Rains of Philadelphia, Gwendolyn Schofield of New Mexico, Shirley Voita of New Mexico, and Jarquise Willis of Alabama, those killed by gun violence in the last week in our country. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may each of their memories ever be for a blessing. Page 27, I invite you to please rise for the words of Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach chirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam olamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'aminran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu yasei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to people everywhere. As together we say, amen. Please be seated. A couple of notes as we bring our service to a close. I want to invite our confirmands and graduation students and their families to join us in Steiner A for a special confirmation graduation oneg with our clergy and educators. Invite the rest of the congregation to join us on the other side of this wall in the art gallery, because our new art exhibit, which you can find out more on the back of your order of worship, is here, and I believe the artist is there. Yes, all right. So thank you for your art, and thank you for sharing it with us, and the oneg will be on that side of the wall. Just a couple of things to share. The first, as you heard from Cantor Fishbein, the holiday of Shavuot is coming. With that is an opportunity for memory, and on this coming Friday, the 26th, at 10:30 in the morning, we will have our Shavuot Yisker service. All are welcome. Hopefully, if it's good weather, it will be in the outdoor chapel at 10:30. The synagogue, the offices are closed that day, but we will, of course, have Shabbat evening services that night at 5:30, and you'll see lots of things to participate in as the school year starts to come to a close. Tomorrow, as you heard, we have three incredible young people who are stepping onto that journey of learning and have done so much work to get to this point. So I want to invite up Oliver and Levi and Elena to join us here on the pulpit to make Shabbat evening Kiddush and Motzi. This is your moment to come on up. You're going to get a Kiddush cup from Cantor Fishbein. That is a gift from our congregation's Brotherhood and Women's Association, and also a certificate toward an Israel trip, which we hope will allow you to continue your learning and continue your study. Mazel tov, we're very excited to celebrate with your families this weekend.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, beratzav banu, b'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon, hinhilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra kodesh, zecher tziyat Mitzrayim, kivanu bacharta, Beotanu kidashta, mikol ha'aminim, B'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
There you go. All right, nice job. Okay, I'm going to give you these certificates and you can go back to your seats. Mazel tov. Ollie, here you go, buddy. Thank you. Here you go, my friend. Thank you. Okay, you guys can go back and sit down.
It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. Bringing our service to a close with a prayer for peace. If there's anything that can make us believe that peace is possible, it is listening to the words and the blessings of our young people and listening to the kind of world that they want to live in. So let's sing together, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Peace will soon be upon us. Please, God. Let's hope. Here we go. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od Yavo. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od Yavo, here we go. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.